She has a vast experience in the world of performing arts. Engagement Russell-Camara will share her story with us today. But before I welcome her, I would like to remind everybody to please click on the subscribe button and the bell button so you get notification every time a new video is released. Hello everyone, this is Margie Bruce here at Global Inspiration, where you need to be seen, you need to be heard, and be an inspiration to the world. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest this week, please welcome Engagement Russell-Camara.
Hi, Margie. Thanks for having me.
Hi, thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely. It's a pleasure.
Where were you born and raised? And tell us a little bit about your heritage.
Absolutely. I was born in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, which is where Wisconsin is the place that when both sides of my parents, both my parents are immigrants, when they came to this country, they were attracted to Wisconsin. They had education in Wisconsin, and my grandparents bought a house in a suburb called Brown Deer. And when my parents had me, we both moved in with my Lola for a bit. And I should also probably mention that my mother is from the Philippines. My maternal grandparents are from the Philippines, and my father is from the Gambia, West Africa. And they both found each other in a college at UW-M.
That's a great story. Now, your name is beautiful and unique. Can you tell us the story behind it and what it means?
I would love to. I would love to. So my name, Njeme, is a Muslim name, and it comes from the Gambia, although it has roots in other countries as well. And it means pure, it means light. But my father didn't name me with that intention. He named me with the intention of being named after his younger sister, Njeme, who passed away at the age of 5 years old. And at that time in the Gambia, they didn't know what exactly she must have passed away from, but we know today it was probably some sort of meningitis for a child. And so he knew that when he had a daughter, he told my mom that I want her to be Njeme. And he still talks about my aunt to this day and how much she was just a light and just a wonderful child. So I keep her in my mind rather than the absolute meaning of my name. And then my two middle names, Maria and Veronica, come from my Filipino side. My mother's first name is Maria Angelica, as was her grandmother. So that's where I get Maria from. And then Veronica, after one of her sisters in the Philippines who passed away at really young as well.
Wow.
So we keep it
Wow.
in the family. We got our
Right.
roots.
So
Brings us
much,
back.
so much history in your name. That's
Yeah.
wonderful. So, you are a lecturer at the UW-Madison. Tell me what your lectures are about.
Yeah, so I teach beginning acting for undergraduate students, and my students range from freshman all the way to senior, and some of them are theater majors, and some are not. And when I have the students who are not theater majors, that's where I have so much fun because as an actor myself, there are so many theatrical techniques that can be used to help a student take up space, use their voice, own their space, um, and use their voice healthily and when to speak up. And it's so freeing for so many of my students. I use a lot of like movement techniques, and then we also work on building your own monologue. We also work on classic American pieces, and then we work on contemporary theater pieces. They do a lot of partner work, and through that, they learn how to be vulnerable and how to give themselves over to a partner, how to work together in a way that's not business transactional, but in a way that's, I need you to show up to be your best self so that I can react the most true and honest with you as an actor.
You are also the Associate Director of Engagement at the Milwaukee Repertory Theater. Can you tell us what that means?
Yes. So what that means is in 2020, when COVID hit, um, as a country, we were doing a lot of reevaluating. What is our voice? What do we want to say? Things just felt so out of control. And there were also moments where it's like, I can't stand for that anymore. I have to stand for this. And so when I was on my path of being an actor, my husband and I, we moved back home right before COVID hit, before COVID was, officially named a pandemic. And I thought to myself, I need to use my voice in a way that is moving people on a more systemic level. And I need to try to understand what is happening in a theater industry, from who makes decisions, how are these conversations being had. In Hamilton, we call it the room where it happens. And trying to, get a little bit into these rooms where these decisions are made. And there was an application for the associate director of engagement. And my husband really encouraged me to apply. I applied, and I'm so grateful that they hired me, because I've learned so much, both in terms of what do the arts and the performing arts, how can they be a source of healing for the community now? But then how can we move forward knowing the demands that actors, directors, playwrights, producers of color are asking for in the theater? How can I hear that language and try to be a person who is implementing change and action in the theater as a whole? And it feels so good. It feels so good. I mean, I love being an actor. I love being on the stage. I love singing. That's where it all started for me. I also love being able to use my voice and see myself grow into this leadership role. It's very thrilling, because I feel like there's a part of me that's being actively used in a calling. It feels right. It feels very right.
So you mentioned you're also an actor, of course. So has it always been your dream to be an actor? What got you into acting in the first place?
That's a great question. A lot of people, they say, I knew from the age of 4 I wanted to be an actor. Or they say I was in high school and I knew I wanted to be an actor. And I played soccer from kindergarten all the way up until my freshman year of high school. For me in my house, it was always about sports, and it was art making with science, because my mom, she played piano. We were all in choir. Me and my siblings were all in choir with my mom, and my father's a scientist. But there was no one in my family who was an actor, who was a professional performer. So I didn't see it as something that I wanted. I liked it. So it was all a bunch of hobbies for me. And it wasn't until I stopped soccer, because in high school they were having tryouts for the musical Cats. All these high schools got the rights to do Cats. And it felt home. It felt so right. I felt like I was finally in an extracurricular where it just aligned with me and it felt natural. And so when I got to college, I said, let me continue to explore. I went to Loyola University, Chicago, specifically as a liberal arts school. And I wanted to try just knowing a bunch of things about myself. I've always been that way, trying different things, how to expand myself. And um, I had some theater training and I wanted to go further. And I ended up getting my master's fine art from UC San Diego. And when I was auditioning for these schools, I was auditioning for like the top schools in the country for an MFA program. And I said, if I don't get in to any of these schools, then that will be an indicator to me. But if I do get in, that will be a sign that I'm meant to keep going. And so I got in, and UC San Diego is in the top 3 in the country. And there were only 8 people in my class. And I had a great time. We did a showcase. I got an agent. I moved to New York. And I was very lucky to have been working consistently when I got to New York, whether it was on the stage, doing voiceover, audiobooks. And I'm so grateful to Penguin Random House Publishing for having me as, one of their artists. And it's just been a great, very fruitful journey in terms of learning and in terms of just having a bunch of variety to work with.
So you mentioned you're doing voiceovers and narration. Can you tell us more about that? Obviously, you do that besides acting and being a lecturer, and besides being an associate director at the Repertory Theater. So can you tell us more about the narration and the voiceover? And I think you're a curator also, correct?
Yes, I do. I create and curate different conversations that we have at Milwaukee Repertory Theater. And so I have a list of different programs that I have helped shape, that I've helped lead, conversations that I've led, resources that I've offered from the Milwaukee community, and how these conversations that I have at Milwaukee Repertory Theater, how we bring in different partners to help facilitate, to help shape these programs as well, these conversations. In terms of audiobooks, that this is something that I did not expect would happen. I always thought it was really fun. It looked fun. And I found myself really enjoying doing vocal work from a non-singing standpoint, where I can be in a studio, I have my headphones, I'm in front of a mic, and I mostly do books for young audiences. And so to be able to step into a character who is 17, who's 10, but then grows to be 18, who then grows to be 25, and doing all their voices and seeing their perspective is so fascinating. And it's also so wonderful to be in the room where there are all of these brilliant writers, and I've been lucky to work with a lot of women writers who are of color, and seeing their beautiful work, seeing them win awards for their work, and being able to bring their characters to life. One of my favorite books that I did was called When Life Gives You Mangoes. I loved that book. Harbor Me by Jacqueline Woodson, and Gravity, which is it's a beautiful story about this young girl who dreams of being a boxer, and how being in the ring symbolizes life.
Okay, so as if those things are not achievements enough, I'm going to ask you, what would you consider your achievements so far?
Being able to, oh, Margie, that's a great question. That is a great question. I think my greatest achievement is through all that I have experienced in the industry from a very young age, as someone who at the age of 18 moved to Chicago, and then at the age of 21, 22 moved to San Diego, and then at the age of 25 moved to New York. I've had so many different experiences happen to me all in my 20s. Being able to maintain relationship, authentic relationship with my family, return to a place of love, and knowing my roots, where I come from. And even with the disappointments and even with the wins, maintaining who I am while also taking in feedback from the universe and growing my voice and owning my space. To me, that counts more than any award. It counts more than any certificate. It counts more than any stage I get to stand on.
I agree. So, can you tell us about your advocacy in the arts?
My advocacy in the arts shows up in a variety of ways. When I did the show X for Betty Shabazz versus the Nation, which is a show about Malcolm X, I remember going on the road with my cast. We did a national tour. And I remember using my voice and saying, how can the character that I'm in be authentically representative of audience members who may identify with my character. I'll give you an example. In that show, my character was a judge and I wore a hijab. And there was a student matinee where when I walked out on stage, I saw all of these students in front of me who were all wearing hijabs. They were all in middle school. And I bet you that was probably one of the rare times where they had seen a character in a hijab who looked like them. We don't have many characters written into the American theater who are wearing hijabs and who get to be women coming on stage first as characters. And so to me, to say yes to a role like that, bringing life to that character, and then, being present for talkbacks, being present for what can I offer these students, what it means to be on stage and wear this costume piece. So that's one. Second is, when I'm in these shows and there are news events happening, for example, when I was in The Color Purple, there was the shooting at the Pulse Club in Orlando. And so I gathered my castmates and I said, we need to make a response video for social media, standing in solidarity with the friends and family of these victims and showing them how much they are loved despite the hate. So those are two examples of things that I do throughout shows while being on the road, while being with cast members, is how can we continue to show community even while being on the road and on a national level. And then now, more so than ever, it is about how can we create systemic change in the theater? Because when we create systemic change in the theater, we have people who are more seen. And when people are seen, they feel represented both on the stage and behind the stage. And it gives hope. And I firmly believe in my spirit that continues to breed empathy. And I believe it is the duty of the arts to create more empathetic human beings, individuals, so that those individuals can heal their communities and create more empathetic human beings in their communities. So just having conversations with the goal of how do we take action from here? So at the Milwaukee Repertory Theater, in my role, I am constantly trying to create conversations. I'm also trying to create a lot of connections within our city. What organizations can help what? Through the arts, through and different kinds of arts as well, not just performing, so that we can have a sustainable city and we can put ourselves on the map to feel like we are being really inclusive. But it's not easy. It is not easy. There's a lot of work to do.
And here at Global Inspiration, we try to help spread the message as well.
And I love it. That's why I'm so excited to be on the show today. Thank you.
Thank you.
We need it.
So can you tell us what current projects you're working right now?
Margie, I'd love to share with you what I am working on. And the first thing I will mention is at Milwaukee Repertory Theater, I have initiated and am leading the Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month celebrations. We had a phenomenal opportunity here to see what is going on with the hate crimes that are constantly happening every day to Asian Americans. And the phenomenal opportunity here is how can we now step up, be in solidarity as a theater company, but also purely authentically celebrate Asian American and Pacific Islanders, giving voice, sharing the mic, giving the mic, and creating allies in our theater space, getting educated, listening, so that when we celebrate and we are happy, authentically happy, and we are joyous, we are jubilant, to me, that is a part of pushing back against the hate, saying we will not give in to this, because that's the haters, that's what they want us to do. So we are in our theater company, we are doing a bunch of different activities. And I proposed that we start off the month with a welcome video. And everyone, please stay tuned, because there is an actor who is a big inspiration to me, who I love, and is a member of the Filipino community. And he's going to do a welcome video to the month, both on a national scale and at Milwaukee Repertory Theater to our Milwaukee community. Following that, we're going to have a panel of all AAPI artists, playwrights, actors, designers, who are going to share with us their stories, and how does their identity play a part of their story in the professional world. What are they seeing, and what do they want to do? What changes do they want for the American theater as artists? And then we have some more ED&I newsletters that are coming out with resources, and it's going to be wonderful. Concluding the month, now we're going to have a conversation about how can art, activism, and legislation come together so that AAPI artists can have more representation in the arts, in the field. So hopefully we will have conversations. Where does the National Endowment of the Arts come in? Where does the presidential, where does the president and legislation come in to implement things that help the arts in general? And when you can help the arts and you help all people of color, you also affect the AAPI community. And that's what the theater needs right now, especially as we build back from COVID. There are things we will not forget. And there are things we need to move forward, because when we return to a sense of normalcy, we get to redefine what normal is. And there are too many people out there who are interested in returning to what they saw was normal before COVID. When so many stories, so many inequalities were being trickled through the social media and the news. Now it's at the forefront of every conversation, every negotiation, contracts, due payments. So it's a little bit of, some of the things that I'm up to at the theater. And then on a different level, on a more personal level, Margie, I am so excited to be writing a book. And it started being an actor, being in this industry where when someone would see my name, they would often leave it out of conversation, or I would be in interaction with them for 4 weeks, 1 month, 2 months, and they still have not practiced my name. And I am fully aware that my name is not common in this country. And actually, it's not even that common in the Gambia. It is really unique. And I'm excited about that. I also understand that we live in a country where people have a variety of names. And so it is actually within our fabric of our country to have names that are not easily pronounceable, that are not practiced, because that's the name of us, the name of the US is immigrant. And that is actually the title of my book, The Name of Us. And my goal with this book is that it be a pocket guide, an inspirational book for many people who struggle to go by their first names, who want to adopt a different name, an easier name, whatever that means now in 2021, a more pronounceable name, a name that blends in more, so that they can get on with life. But the reality is, how can we also when we own our space, when we own our voice, we also own our names. And we work with people to have them pronounced, because it's worth it, because that's where respect comes in. So, and I, was very lucky that Teen Vogue was able to take an excerpt of this book and publish it. So if anyone is interested, it's called Names That Are Names Are Not Difficult to Pronounce, They're Unpracticed. And if you just Google my name and Teen Vogue, you'll see it. So hopefully fingers crossed that the book will be out in the very near future. And I would love to have more conversations with people about their experiences with their names, their identity, and the book.
So, in light of all that, do you have a website that our viewers can know more about you and your work?
Absolutely. My website is njame.com. Simple. But you just have to remember how to spell my name. So it is NJAMEH.com. And from there, you will see both my work as being an actor, a voiceover, working at Milwaukee Repertory Theater, different things that I have, curated, facilitated, and as well more information about, interviews that I've done and what I'm up to next.
Finally, can you give our viewers an inspirational message?
Yes. The inspirational message I would like to share is one of the key things that was in conversation during our Black History Month programming at Milwaukee Repertory Theater, which was, who are the shoulders upon which you stand? And I know that I stand upon the shoulders of my parents and my grandparents first, before I stand upon the shoulders of anyone in the industry. And so for anyone who feels like, oh, I'm having trouble taking up space today, or I'm having trouble using my voice, or I'm intimidated by that person, I'm intimidated by this work, I have anxiety. Look, I have that too, okay? But what brings me back is knowing that I stand upon the shoulders of my parents. And if you are a first generation American like I am, knowing that your parents or your grandparents didn't come to this country so that you can be in constant emotional, mental despair. So you have to use your voice. You have to speak up. Be in touch with what you care about and let that radiate, let that vibrate. Speak up.
That is great. Thank you so much, Jamie, for being here and for your inspirational story.
Thank you, Margie, for having me. This is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity and program. I love the mission that you're leading with. Keep
Thank,
going, sister.
thank you, thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. And if you know someone who you want us to feature here at Global Inspiration, let us know in the comments below. And this is Margie Bruce here at Global Inspiration, where you need to be seen, you need to be heard, and be an inspiration to the world.